the brainchild of our current chairman, the Honorable Dennis Daugaard, Governor of South Dakota. As chair, Governor Daugaard has the prerogative to commit a significant measure of WGA's resources to a particular initiative or project or issue. And in focusing our attention on workforce development in the West, he has chosen wisely. The importance of closing the skills gap, matching industry needs with labor pool competencies, and aligning education with opportunity cannot be overstated. The economic vitality of the West depends on it. Western governors are committed to leveraging their resources, their influence, and their leadership to improve the prospects for employers, employees, students, and prospective members of the workforce. And that is why we have gathered here today. In organizing this workshop, WGA, along with the state of Colorado, Governor Daugaard, and many partners, has assembled a tremendous body of expertise and thought leadership here at the Art Hotel. Whether or not you are delivering a presentation or participating on a panel, you are here because you are interested, committed to improvements in the workforce development ecosystem, and have a great deal to share. And the next 2 days are designed to extract and collect your knowledge and ideas to inform the governor's future efforts in workforce development. We fully recognize that this is a big, broad topic, and that to make a difference, we'll have to put our shoulder to the wheel for a long haul. This initiative will continue well beyond the 1 year of Governor Daugaard's chairmanship of WGA, but this first year is critically important as we endeavor to frame the salient issues for governors, identify policy options, and consider new tools or metrics or goals that are within their power to design and deliver. As a housekeeping note, be advised that we are live streaming these proceedings as we want this conversation to reach the broadest possible audience. And we'll also post the video record of this workshop on our website. So accordingly, it's extremely important that you speak clearly into a microphone. If you're in the audience, please wait for a roving mic before you share your thoughts. This event is made possible by the generous support of our partners and initiative sponsors. I am pleased to recognize the contributions of Western Governors University, ACT, America Achieves, and Walmart. We are deeply grateful for their initiative sponsorship. We also want to extend our appreciation to CSU Global, the Center for Work Ethic Development, and the Colorado Workforce Development Council for their partnership and support of this Denver workshop. To be successful, this effort on workforce development will require creativity, vision, and innovation. Fortunately, the host of today's workshop, Colorado Governor John Hickenlooper, has built an entire career, or rather a series of careers, on creativity, vision, and innovation. As a former geologist, the governor understands the challenges associated with landing and keeping a good job. As a former restaurateur and I wasn't a dig. I know better. It was a compliment. As a former restaurateur and brew pub owner, he recognizes the importance of matching skill sets with employer needs. As the former mayor of Denver, he gets the value of public-private partnerships. And as governor, he pretty much knows everything. It is an honor of the first order to introduce a former chairman of the Western Governors Association, my governor, the 42nd governor of the great state of Colorado, the Honorable John Hickenlooper.
I'm not sure I know anybody who puts more time into their introductions and pays such subtle but penetrating compliments to the speakers. I want to thank Jim for, when we hired him, I was actually the chair of the Western Governors Associations. We did that process. Gary Herbert and I kind of worked on that together. And he has done such a remarkable job of building this organization and really adding a lot of muscle to it that it really didn't have before. So thank you really on behalf of all of us. Also want to recognize Governor Daugaard for being here. He is, I mean, all of us Western governors get along. I mean, and one of the great things about all governors, but especially Western governors, is we are less partisan. And not that he won't give me a jab in the ribs or I won't give him a jab in the ribs over a political issue, but generally we're pretty eager to put the places where we disagree behind us. I mean, find where we can get common ground as best we can do, but then get on to the stuff where we can really make decisions and move our states forward. And usually we have to have great partners knowing that. Ellen Golombek's our head of the Office of Labor and Employment here, Stephanie Beck, and I know a number of you here, I would go down the list and thank everybody. But two people I really want to thank who aren't part of the family, well, they are part of the family at this point. But Susie and Eric Levine have, from the beginning of this, really tried to examine in depth what apprenticeships could do to workforce and what are the real challenges of workforce. They've been right there from the very beginning, and they have given so much of their time. They flew down here from Seattle just to be for this meeting today. Could not be more appreciative and more grateful. They are the real, true pioneer spirit and leading in all this stuff. The bipartisanship with WGA, I mentioned, the collaboration works. And I always point out to people that, you know, when I was in the restaurant business for 15 years, if I could have had a monopoly in any aspect of the restaurant business, I would have loved it, right? And monopoly, when you think about it, is just when people work too closely together and they set prices, they fix everything. You know, monopolies are against the law, right? For very good reasons. They're very successful. There's no monopoly. There's no law against it. It's not a monopoly when states begin to work together. And when states trade best ideas, and we actually have a lovely level of competition where I think this is true of all governors, but especially Western governors. Nothing makes me happier than to have someone take one of my ideas, because then they'll take my idea and they will improve it dramatically. And a year later, 2 years later, suddenly it'll be a whole different creature and stronger and better. And then I steal it right back. It's benevolent larceny. And I think that's what's going on here. You know, Colorado and South Dakota, and it's funny, most of the Western states are doing very well economically now. We added over 43,000 jobs last year. Since I took office in 2011, we've added over 400,000 jobs. We've had a wonderful run. But I think if you're going to look at a percentage basis, I think South Dakota's probably done better. So I don't like to brag in front of Dennis because it just gets me into trouble. But we have seen our unemployment rate come down. When I came in, we were up over 9%. Now we're down at 2.3, 2.4%. Part of what we recognize now clearly is our labor market is too tight, and businesses don't want to come and are having too hard a time finding the talent that we need. And we're, by necessity, reaching out to markets that we hadn't really focused on before. People that are over 65 years old, that's a market that population is growing dramatically. Now, a lot of people want to retire when they're 65, but a lot of people don't. People who have different abilities, in some cases different disabilities, can do all kinds of jobs that we didn't really understand before. And if you look at almost all these jobs, the one thing we are clear on is that as time is going on, more education and more skills are necessary. By 2030, three-quarters of the jobs in Colorado are going to need a high school diploma or at least some post-secondary work. And this is not necessarily a four-year degree. 30 years ago, I mean, and this is a wild, thing to recognize, but 30% of our kids would go and get a college degree, a four-year degree. The other 70% we at least spend some focus on. Now, 30% is now maybe 31% of our kids are going to get a college degree, a four-year degree. And that other 69%, not only do we not spend anywhere near the same level of resources on them, but I think a lot has happened in the last 30 years to make them feel like they're losers, right? That they don't go to college, they're not good enough, they're not successful enough. And yet, our economy is growing so rapidly, we're going to need technicians at every different level. We don't need that many college degrees. We do need people with specific skills can do the jobs that we're creating. We want to make sure that those skills are available to everyone and that we are making sure everyone in our entire state, no matter how low an income neighborhood they come from, whether they're Latino or African American or Asian or whether they're straight or gay, whatever, we want to make sure everybody has equal access to make sure they've got the training so that they have the skills to deal with these jobs that are coming forward. And one way to do that is make sure you have what we've been calling alignment, to make sure that we push that collaboration, as a lot of what we see at the Western Governors. We have what we call a workforce and education subcommittee, I guess it's a workforce and education committee in my cabinet, to make sure that we don't have the silos and we are actively breaking down usually all the resistance that well, we can't give you a decision on that because we've got to go back and check it through all of our processes. This notion of sequential discovery and then sequential decision making, so that first one agency goes and gets all the facts they need and then they make a decision, and until they're done, we don't begin that same process in the other agency or the other three agencies. That time is past. We absolutely do not have the luxury of sequential decision making anymore. We've got to have everybody looking at the same set of facts and everyone making a decision on those facts and realizing that several other agencies are making the same decision, and if information comes to light or someone points out a good idea, maybe we'll come back and we'll evolve this decision that we're all working on at the same time. But we're not going to wait and let one agency make a decision and then have the next agency suddenly begin working on it. We have a Colorado Workforce Development Council with the same principle behind it, that alignment. It's got the private business sector. We work with the chambers. We work with different, like the different support organizations. The Colorado Technology Association is a good example. But they also have state government. We have local government, county government, and municipal government. But we also work with the different educational organizations, so school districts, community colleges, I guess you could call them colleges, but that collaborative effort has been working to come together and build 23 regional sector partnerships. And there's a consortium of 8 of these statewide associations, trade associations, I guess you call them, that are involved in this. And then we have 19 workforce development boards. And the goal doesn't always happen, but we want all these workforce boards to be in real time connecting with each other, even as they're working with that development council. People say, well, it's just easy. My son, several years ago, when he was in 6th grade, I was complaining about something. He said, Dad, what do you do all day that's so hard? Make decisions? I said, well, Teddy, it's not that easy. And he goes, Dad, get the facts, make a decision, check, next. I said, what did I tell you? He goes, Dad, every day I've got to go into school and learn something completely new that didn't exist. I didn't even know it existed the day before. And if I don't get it completely right, my next day is misery because everything's based on the day. You know, after 5 minutes, I said, you're right, Teddy, 6th grade is harder than being governor. But the bottom line is we really have got to get to that mentality where we get the facts. You know, we make sure everyone's got the same set of facts, and then we make a decision, we move forward. You can change, you can modify most decisions, not all. We have an organization called CareerWise, and it came out to be as a result of a trip to Switzerland with business and education leaders. That trip was curated by Susie Levine, who was at that time the ambassador of Switzerland, and I don't know how many hundreds of hours she put into it, but we had 55 people. And we had CEOs, we had the head of community colleges, head of several of the largest school districts. We had everybody who matters in the notion of apprenticeships that might be important. And, you know, we had the head of trade associations. We had the head of, you know, as I said, some of the corporations we wanted to get involved. And we had the CEOs of several of the largest foundations. And we came out, and from that we created what we call the Bell Commission, the Business Employment Learning Commission, or the Business Education Learning, whatever. Business experiential learning. That's why I hate acronyms. I have forbidden anyone to use acronyms in my office because I think they confuse people half the time. Just my bias. Anyway, we now have 4 high school apprenticeship programs being piloted. They're created in manufacturing, IT, bookkeeping, business operations. Again, kids, when they're instead of junior in high school or senior in high school, they get a job. They work in one of these industries. They work 3 days a week, and then the 2 days when they go to classroom, not only are they getting the education that'll get them in a couple of years their high school degree, but they're also studying a curriculum designed by the industry in which they're working. And you can imagine there's going to be a lot of work involved in getting all these trade associations and everybody to create the training. But it's, again, so far, every single business I've talked to thinks it's well worth the effort and is excited. And the kids love it. We've done a year and a half of pilots. This year, we're going to have 250 kids in 80 different companies pushing that pilot out. And I think it's, our goal is in 10 years to have 200 or have 20,000 apprenticeships in the mill. And I think, these kids are going to have the skills for the high demand jobs. Hopefully, they've been living at home, most of them, so they're going to have $10,000 or $15,000, famous last words, saved up. Part of that curriculum they get is to be frugal, if I have anything to do with it. And as I said, the businesses love it. There's a real return on investment. There's a guy named Noel Ginsberg, who I think you're going to get a chance to talk to this afternoon, who, he's got a plastic injection molding company. He took this on almost 4 years ago, and he's the one who really had the inspiration to go to Switzerland and reached out and did a lot of that work. And I have given him raises. I mean, he's if you average over the last 4 years, he's been working 40 hours a week. I bet anything. And so I did, when he first agreed to do this, I said, no one should do anything for free. So we paid him $1 a year. Then he did such a great job, we doubled it to $2. Last year was $4. This year I haven't told him yet, but you can let him know. I'm going to give him $8. Anyway, we recognize that with low unemployment, we got to do a better job of getting every kid into the workforce and make sure that they have not just a job, but a good job, a job that leads to a better job, what we call a career. And I think I look at this as one of the most powerful, probably one of the most important things I've had anything to do with in my 6.5 years as governor. And I'm very, again, I give Governor Daugaard, who I'll introduce here in 30 seconds, but you work on things like that, and oftentimes, especially other governors, whatever, everybody's busy. When he said, all right, I'm coming in as a chair for the Western governors, and he came to me and said, here's what I want to do. I want to make this the issue. And as always, I kicked myself in the butt and said, why didn't I think of that? Right? What was I, well, I was asleep at the switch. But then recognizing that's real leadership. That's realizing that he had an opportunity, he has the resources of this organization. And as Jim said, this is not an organization without resources, right? They've got the ability to really study something and do PR and convene all of us together so we accelerate that learning process. And I think when you look at all the Western governors, probably one of the most successful. Yeah, he's on the same timeline I am, so we're going to fade off into the sunset at the same time. But he's going to go down as one of the great governors in the history of South Dakota. Dennis Daugaard.
Thank you, Governor. Well, if I'm going to go down as one of the great governors, I better get rolling. No, I look out in the room, I can see another speech from a second governor row. The room is electric with anticipation. I could just see that in your faces. It is good to be here. I had to make a decision earlier today, so I'm exhausted, of course. So you can tell your son that. But welcome to all of you, and thank you for taking the time to attend this workforce summit. As governor of South Dakota, I enjoy working on a lot of different issues, but I really do enjoy getting together with John and other governors who are interested in this topic. And it does, as he said, cross both state and political lines, this issue of workforce. Here with me, somewhere in the room, our Secretary of Labor is here, Marcia Holtman. We have a couple of other staff from South Dakota that are here. We're very interested in this topic, and it was born out of a trip to Switzerland and Germany. I followed hard on the heels of Governor Hickenlooper. The next year, NGA heard and was so interested after hearing from Governor Hickenlooper about his trip that they sponsored several other governors, myself, the governor of Oklahoma and of Kentucky, to go and see the apprenticeship models that you're going to be hearing about in a moment from Switzerland and also in Germany. And I came back with some of the staff that accompanied with me, and also business leaders we had along, and I was just intrigued about this workforce problem that we faced in South Dakota. Like Colorado, we're a very low unemployment state. Like Colorado, We recovered the jobs we lost during the recession in pretty short order and added thousands more. And so we have that same low unemployment rate and that same issue. We have employers not just looking askance at South Dakota because of our low unemployment rate in terms of moving to South Dakota, but we have our own employers doing work in other states where there's more labor availability, where they can't get that labor in South Dakota, or where the particular skill set is not available in South Dakota. And so I'm excited to focus on this important issue and pleased to be here in Denver. This is the second workforce summit. Through this workforce initiative, we aim to leverage the region's best thinking, and Colorado, by virtue of your jumpstart in this area, is a great learning laboratory for all of us. And so I'm excited to be here. Through this initiative, we hope to gain that thinking from not only here, but other states that share membership in the Western Governors Association. We want to bridge the gap between prospective workers who want work but maybe don't have the right skill sets, and employers who need workers. And so whether it's enhanced career pathways for our youth, or whether it's for our graduates who have degrees that really don't have demand in the workplace, or whether we're looking at displaced workers who had skills, who have a work ethic, but whose skills have been displaced by automation or by technology or other change in society. In August, I had the opportunity to launch the initiative by hosting a workforce summit in South Dakota, and we had participants from all across the West. We also had our U.S. Secretary of Labor, Alexander Acosta. He joined us as we discussed this. This is, as I said, our second workforce summit. There's no doubt it'll be an enlightening experience. We have two more after the Denver summit. We have one in Oklahoma City on October 16 and 17, and then still one more in Seattle on November 1st. And the Western Governors Association has online resources also at westgov.org if you're interested in seeing what happened in South Dakota, or seeing what happens in Oklahoma City or Seattle, even if you can't be there. Or if you have an interest in serving on a panel or offering your insights at one of the subsequent workshops, please let us know. Just talk to any one of the WGA staff. I don't want to take up too much time, so I'm going to be brief. I'm very proud of my state of South Dakota, just as John, I know, is proud of Colorado. We have a great education system in South Dakota. Our high school graduation rates are better than average. Our teacher pay is increasing, so we think we're dedicating resources to education. Most of our students are hardworking and successful, but unfortunately, we have a fair number of folks who enter four-year degree institutions and fail. They quit. In fact, that's true nationwide. Only about 60% of those who enter a four-year degree institution graduate within 6 years. Now, when I went, it was kind of the trend to do it in 4 years, but I know that's changed. Why rush through that extended adolescence period when you can get 6 years worth of partying? Why make it done in 4? But many students also who do persist and get a four-year degree, they end up pursuing fields in which they're interested. Maybe they got an interest in high school, or for whatever reason, they decide on their major, and then they graduate only to find there's few jobs in that field. And they're a little bit surprised and offended. Or maybe there's lots of jobs in the field, but they don't pay well. They pay very poorly because there are so many with degrees in that field. So often students have racked up a significant amount of student debt because some students are lucky enough to come from families who pay the freight, but many aren't, and have to pay it their own way, and they end up working in entry-level jobs that they could have gotten without that degree in sociology or art history or whatever degree they have. They might be more worldly, but they don't have any skills that are in demand in the workplace. And at the end of the day, you have to pay your student debt back, you have to put food on the table, you have to pay your bills. So this is a concern that I think I share with many governors. And I don't mean to downplay the value of liberal arts education, because there are students that can and do excel no matter what their degree is. These are talented people with work ethic and numeracy skills and literacy skills, and they can take any job, learn it, and excel. And there are people like that, you know them. But not everyone is like that. Some folks are average achievers, and if they graduate with a degree or fail to graduate, no, I wasn't calling for a show of hands, John. When I went to undergrad, I majored in political science. You know, that degree is in tremendous demand, as you can imagine. Now, when I tell people I majored in political science, they ask me, well, you're governor, you must have always had that passion for government service and politics, and maybe I'd already decided I was going to pursue a political career, but in fact, none of those reasonable suggestions drove my decision to choose political science. I did it because I got a $200 scholarship. Honest to God, I got a $200 scholarship, and back in those days, $200 was something. Today, I don't know if it'd pay for a textbook, but anyway, we face our fair share of workforce development efforts in South Dakota, and we're working to take measured steps to change the conversation. We want to redefine success. It doesn't necessarily mean you have to go to a 4-year degree to achieve success. You can, and certainly there are lots of avenues there, but there are many other avenues, whether they be apprenticeships or 2-year degrees or 1-year certificates in skills that are in great demand. So we want to redefine success, not only to students, but also to their parents and others looking to change careers and start fresh. So with so many education options out there and career paths available, we need to be sure students understand them all. So they don't just start down one path thinking, here is the one way to heaven, just this one way. There are lots of ways to heaven. So a successful career can mean a lot. It could mean a great salary, making a difference in your community, challenging and fulfilling work that you feel makes a difference. And while 4-year degrees are still valuable and necessary in many fields, they're not the only path to heaven, as I said. So I'm looking forward to hearing from all of you in hopes we can continue to find ways to improve. For employers, finding qualified workers, at least in South Dakota, is probably the challenge they face. It's not getting business anymore. It's not getting sales. It's finding qualified workers. So my hope is that together the states within the Western Governors Association will share with one another and will learn from business and industry and educators from our respective states about ways we can engage in changes in our states that will have people finding success at the end of their academic paths and succeeding in ways that fill needs that employers have all across our nation, not just in our states. So thank you very much.